I'm 41 years old. I teach high school physics. I have done so for 16 years. I spend my days explaining the behavior of light to teenagers. Reflection, refraction, the angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. I understand how mirrors work. I understand the science of what you see when you look into a piece of glass with a reflective coating on the back. Light bounces off your body, hits the glass, reflects back to your eyes at a predictable angle, and your brain constructs an image. That's it. That's all a mirror is. I need you to understand that I know this. I need you to understand that I am not someone who jumps at shadows, or believes in haunted objects, or entertains supernatural explanations when a rational one exists. I have a mirror. Or rather, I had one. It's in my garage now, covered with a moving blanket, facing the wall. It's about 3 feet wide, 5 feet tall, set in a dark walnut frame with ornate carved edges, beveled glass, heavy enough that it took me and a neighbor to carry it into the house. It is a beautiful object, and it does not show you what is happening. It shows you what is about to happen. About 3 to 5 seconds into the future. I know how that sounds. I know exactly how that sounds. But I watched my bedroom door open in that mirror, while the real door behind me was still closed. And then I heard the real doorknob turn. If you go to estate sales, if you buy things that belong to people who have died, never bring home a mirror. I don't care how beautiful it is. I don't care how good the price is. Leave it where it is. Let me tell you how I got it so you understand that this started as the most ordinary thing in the world. Late September, last year. There was an estate sale in a Victorian house about 20 minutes outside of town. One of those big old places set back from the road with a wraparound porch and paint peeling off the trim. The woman who owned it had died. I didn't know her. I don't know how she died. I just saw the listing online and thought I might find some interesting furniture. I got there around 9 in the morning. It was cold, the kind of early fall cold that sits in the air and doesn't move. Wet leaves all over the walkway, that smell of decay that October brings, earthy and sweet and a little bit sad. There were already a dozen people there, moving through the house with that particular energy people have at estate sales. Picking through a dead woman's belongings like it's a flea market, opening drawers, checking the bottoms of dishes for maker's marks. I remember feeling vaguely uncomfortable about the whole thing, but I told myself that's just what estate sales are. Someone dies and strangers buy their things. It's normal. The mirror was upstairs, leaning against the hallway wall at a slight angle. Floral wallpaper behind it, faded and peeling at the seams. The glass had that quality that very old mirrors have, not perfectly flat, with tiny imperfections that make the reflection slightly warmer, slightly softer than modern glass. The frame was hand-carved, $40. I bought it without thinking much about it. I brought it home and mounted it on the bedroom wall, directly opposite the foot of my bed, facing the door. My house is a small craftsman bungalow, just 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, original hardwood floors that creak in specific places I've memorized over the years. I live alone, have for a while. My routine is simple. I come home from school, grade papers, read, and I'm in bed by 10 most nights. The mirror looked perfect on that wall. It made the room feel bigger, brighter. For the first few days, I didn't notice anything at all. The first week, there were small things. Things I dismissed immediately because I'm a rational person, and rational people don't entertain the idea that a mirror is malfunctioning in ways that violate the laws of physics. I have a small clock on my nightstand, and once or twice I glanced at the mirror and the clock's reflection seemed to show a time that was slightly ahead. Maybe a minute, maybe less. I assumed I was misreading the angle. The beveled glass distorted things at the edges. Old mirrors do that. Then one morning I was reaching for my coffee mug on the dresser, and I could swear, in my peripheral vision, the reflection showed the mug in a slightly different position, shifted about an inch to the left, as if my hand had already moved it. But when I looked directly, everything was normal. Tired eyes, long days. I let it go. Then came Tuesday night. I remember the exact time because I looked at the clock right before it happened. 11:47 p.m. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, facing the mirror, a stack of sophomore lab reports on my lap, red pen in hand. The house was completely silent. Not peaceful silent. That heavy silence that old houses have at night, where you become aware of every tiny sound. The baseboard heater ticking as the metal expanded, the faint settling of the wooden frame, and underneath everything, this smell I'd noticed since hanging the mirror. Faint, sweet, like dried flowers, like potpourri that had been sitting in a drawer for years. I was reading a student's report on wave behavior, and in the mirror, I saw my reflection look up from the papers, just lift its head and stare forward. But I hadn't looked up. I was still reading. My eyes were still on the page. I felt this cold prickle start at the base of my skull and spread across my scalp, like someone had pressed an ice cube to the back of my neck. And then, about 3 seconds later, I felt the impulse to look up. And I did. I raised my head and stared at the mirror, and now my reflection matched. Now we were synchronized. But I had watched it happen first. I had watched myself do something before I did it. I sat there for 20 minutes testing it. I would decide to raise my right hand, and in the mirror, my reflection's right hand would rise roughly 3 seconds before mine did. I would turn my head to the left, and the reflection turned first. Every single time. 3 seconds. Consistent. Predictable. I am a physics teacher. I understand that what I am describing is impossible. Light does not arrive from the future. Reflections do not precede the action they're reflecting. And yet I sat on my bed and watched it happen over and over and over for 20 minutes, and every test confirmed it. The mirror was showing me what I was about to do, approximately 3 seconds before I did it. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed with the lights on, facing away from the mirror, telling myself I was exhausted, that I'd been working too hard, that the brain can play tricks with timing and perception, that there was a name for this, some cognitive distortion I could look up and understand and file away. But I could feel the mirror behind me. I know that sounds irrational. I could feel it the way you can feel someone standing too close to you in a dark room. This awareness, this pressure on the back of my neck that wouldn't go away. 3 nights later, I confirmed that the mirror doesn't only show my future movements. It shows everything that is about to happen in the room. It was 12:15 a.m. I'd been watching the mirror compulsively every night since Tuesday, unable to stop, unable to look away, the way you can't stop pressing on a bruise. I was standing near the dresser, getting ready for bed, and I was looking at the mirror, and in the reflection I could see my bedroom door behind me. It was closed. I always close it at night. In the mirror, the door was closed. And then, in the mirror, it began to open, slowly. Just this thin, vertical line of dark hallway appearing at the edge of the door, widening, inch by inch. I could see the darkness of the hall spilling into the reflected room like something liquid. And in that darkness, in that gap, something moved. A shadow. But not a normal shadow. It was shaped like a person, but the proportions were wrong. Too tall for the doorframe. The limbs, or what I think were limbs, were too long, bending at angles that didn't make sense. and it was shifting into the doorway, as if leaning in, as if peering around the edge of the door to look at me. I could not move. Every muscle in my body locked. I felt the blood drain out of my hands and my face and pool somewhere in my stomach, heavy and sick. Cold sweat broke across my palms instantly, like someone had turned on a faucet. My skin felt like it was shrinking. I was standing there watching this thing ease into the door frame in the mirror, and behind me, in the real room, the real door was still closed. I could see it in my peripheral vision. Closed. The mirror was showing me what was coming. I was watching the future lean into my bedroom. Then I heard it, behind me, in the real room. The soft, unmistakable click of the doorknob turning. That small mechanical sound, metal rotating inside metal, the latch pulling back from the strike plate. It was the loudest sound I have ever heard in my life. It filled the room. It filled my skull. And then the door began to move. I could hear it. The soft hiss of wood against carpet as it swung inward. Exactly as it had in the mirror. Exactly 3 seconds later. I screamed. I spun around so fast I knocked the lamp off the dresser and it shattered on the floor. The hallway was dark. The door was open about 6 inches, and there was nothing there. Nothing in the door frame. Nothing in the hall. Just darkness and the smell of that house. Old wood and dried flowers and something underneath it that I couldn't name. Something faintly chemical. Faintly wrong. I stood there, shaking so hard my teeth were clicking together, staring into that empty hallway for what must have been 10 minutes. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. But the door was open. I had closed it. I always close it. And now it was open, exactly the way the mirror had shown me. Exactly the way I had watched it happen 3 seconds before it happened in reality. I took the mirror down that night. I carried it to the garage by myself, scraping the walls, nearly dropping it twice because my hands were still shaking. I leaned it against the far wall, facing away from the room, and I covered it with a moving blanket, and I haven't touched it since. I tried to return it. I called the estate sale company the next week and told them I wanted to bring back the mirror. The woman on the phone was polite, said they don't normally do returns, but when I described the piece, she got quiet for a moment. She said she remembered it. She told me the previous owner, the woman who died, was found in her bedroom. She had been dead for several days before anyone checked on her. She was sitting in a chair, facing a mirror. This mirror. She was facing it when she died. I didn't ask any more questions. I hung up. That was 9 months ago. I sleep with the lights on now, every night. I took the mirror off the bedroom wall, but I also covered the bathroom mirror with a towel before I go to bed each night. Because some nights, when I'm brushing my teeth, I catch my reflection making a movement a half second before I make it. And I can't tell anymore if that's the mirror or my imagination. And I don't want to find out. I want to ask you something. Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt, just for a fraction of a second, that your reflection moved first? That it blinked before you did? That its hand shifted a half second before yours? You probably dismissed it. Everyone does. You tell yourself it was nothing. It was a trick of the light. It was your brain misfiring. But what if it wasn't? What if you saw exactly what you think you saw? What if, for just a moment, the glass showed you what was coming next, and you looked away before you saw what followed? Some objects hold on to something from the people who owned them. I don't know what it is. I'm a physics teacher, and I don't have a name for it, and that bothers me more than I can tell you. But that mirror showed me my own door opening before it opened. and it showed me something standing in that doorway that wasn't there when I turned around. Or wasn't there anymore. The mirror is still in my garage, under the blanket, facing the wall. I check on it sometimes, just to make sure the blanket hasn't slipped. I never look at the glass. I refuse to look at the glass, because I don't want to see what it's showing now. I don't want to know what's about to happen next.